Howdy folks, Dave here at Thunder Mesa Studio with another spooky project for the On30 Gruesome Gulch layout. Back when I was working on Cadaver Caverns, I may have mentioned that there was one more special effect that I wanted to add over here by the Bridge of Skulls. Well, my friends, the time has come. Tucked back into this little corner behind the bridge, I want to have an endless mine tunnel that seems to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And just like the famous endless hallway scene at Disney's Haunted Mansion, this effect is all going to be done with mirrors, or more specifically, one-way glass. One-way glass has a special mirror-like surface on one side, so that it's highly reflective when there's no light behind it. But when there is, you can see right through it, just like regular glass. Of course, this is the stuff you always see on the wall in the interrogation room on all of those cop shows. I picked up this piece of one-way plexiglass on Amazon, and I'm going to cut it into a couple of pieces to create the endless mine tunnel illusion. But first, let's do a quick sketch so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So how this works is you have one pane right here and one pane right here, with the reflective surfaces facing each other. Okay? And a light inside of here to illuminate this mottled bit of the tunnel. This part out here is dark. And this back here is dark. Probably just a piece of foam painted black. So with this illuminated in between, you'll be able to see right through this piece to the reflection on this piece, reflecting this side, and on and on and on it goes forever. So the first thing I need to do is cut a couple of pieces from this that are about 3 by 3 inches. And I've got this special plexiglass cutting tool for that. Now what you want to do is score and then snap it. This stuff is front surface reflective, which means it's really easy to damage the reflective surface. And that, of course, will spoil the illusion, so we don't want to do that. It's going to take some great care. Putting some plastic down here and trying not to move this so it doesn't scratch. Take it over to the edge of my table, and I should be able to just snap this piece off. There we go. Here's a little preview of the effect. Going off forever. Well, I just removed the graveyard section to make it easier to work on this project. And that is the little space we're dealing with. Right down in that corner. Kind of cramped, but I think I can make it work. So I've cut a piece of foam core to match the footprint of that odd little corner. And now I'm just drawing out the path that the mine tunnel is going to take, and indicating where the one-way glass will be located. I want a long lead-in up here in the front. I want this all to be dark in order to make the illusion work well. So now I can start building this up, I think. I'm just going to use all the scraps and bits and pieces of polystyrene foam that are left over from the rest of Gruesome Gulch. I'll start by gluing on the back of the tunnel. And now I'll just paint this flat black with some acrylics because I don't want any light at all to be reflected from behind this mirror. While I wait for that to dry, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the mine timbers. So we have some square set framing in here. And you know, I could have built these out of just regular scale lumber, but I decided to laser cut the pieces, and that's so they'll be 100% consistent. The thing that's going to make this illusion work is that these all have to look the same, so that the reflected ones look the same as the the real ones, the non-reflected ones. And I cut this out of some 1/8 inch stock, and that way when it's against the mirrored surface, it'll reflect itself and look like 12 by 12. Make sense? So I'm going to start putting these together. I've got 5 of them to build, so I best get started. As I distress and stain these pieces, trying to keep them oriented properly to each other, the way they go together, because there's a specific way, and it'll just make it easier later on when I start assembling them. I don't have to go back and try to figure out how the pieces go together. They'll already be laid out the way they go. I'm also trying to get roughly the same amount of stain, the same shade on each piece, so they look as identical as I can get them. Okay, no pressure. Now that the paint on here is completely dry, I think I can put the first mirror in carefully as I can without damaging the surface, only touching it around the edges. Using some of this Tight Bond Quick and Thick glue. Just picked this up at my local hardware store, and I like it so far. I've been using it for a lot of different stuff. Multi-surface adhesive. See how it works on mirrors. Now I'll put the first one of these frames together. Now I can very carefully adhere this to the surface of the mirror with some Zap Canopy glue. Right about there. Now I'll just paint out the rest of the mirror with some black acrylic paint. This is all going to be covered by rock, but this is just an extra precaution. Now I want to paint the floor of the tunnel with some pewter gray, which is the scenic base color for just about everything on Gruesome Gulch. In retrospect, I probably should have done this before I put the mirror in, because now I have to paint very carefully along the base of it. I can put the rest of these frames together now. These two are going to go on the second mirror, and this one goes out front to carry the illusion forward. And for this one, I need to glue all the pieces back to back, because this one needs to be a real 12 by 12. Now I want to add a short length of ON18 track, which will be between the two mirrors. And if I do this right, it'll look like the track goes on down the tunnel forever. Now I want to create the side tunnel walls out of some blocks of foam. But again, I need these to be kind of nondescript, because the pattern is going to repeat over and over again. So they just need to sort of fade into the background. So I'm kind of having to do the opposite of what I usually do. I usually try to make it, unique and interesting looking, and now I'm trying to make them boring so the trick won't show. And to carve these little bits of rock, I'm using the same technique I've used all over Gruesome Gulch, which is carve some chunks away with a hobby knife and then add some strata with a wire brush. Then use my heat gun to seal all that in place. And minimize the risk of doing any damage to the reflective surfaces. I want to do as much painting and detailing on these before I install them as I can. Not that they're going to be that detailed. these should just kind of fade into the background, so they're going to be pretty dark. You know, the paint's not quite dry on this, but I'm feeling impatient, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this side in. Seems like paint is taking forever to dry today. Well, while I wait for that paint to dry, I can at least glue this other half frame to this other mirror. Again, using some Zap canopy glue. Okay. Okie dokie. And again, I'll paint out the rest of the mirror with some black. Now I can glue the other mirror to this side, but I'm going to have to turn most of the lights off so I can see through here and make sure that it's lined up properly. Got to get rid of all this ambient light around me. Here it goes, off into eternity. Alright, I got that lined up pretty good, I think, and so now I can glue in the rest of the track coming out and the other half of the frame on this side. This might seem like a pretty straightforward little project, but I'm finding that there are a lot of interesting little challenges. Like right now I need to ballast this section of track in here between the two mirrors without getting ballast all over them, or dust or anything else. Got my sifted black cinders that I use for ballast on the Gruesome Gulch layout. And I'm going to try to get them in here without messing everything up. That's why I haven't glued this wall in yet. I'm going to get 99% of the ballast in there, and then we'll glue this in, and then I can finish out the rest of the tunnel up here. Now I can soak this with some diluted white glue. Again, being very careful not to get it up on the mirrors. While the glue dries on the ballast in there, I can finish up sculpting the little foam blocks for the rest of the front part of the tunnel. And I'm going to use the same painting techniques and everything to try to get them to match this reflected part in here as closely as possible. I've also been working on the ceiling for the tunnel, and that's what this little block of foam is right here. And I've been working on the lighting for the scene. Up until now, I've been using this puck light, this little battery-operated puck light, to illuminate the interior to test out the angles and everything, make sure everything is lined up. But that's not going to be the actual lighting for the model. I've got a couple of 5mm LEDs embedded in here. One is green and one is blue, in keeping with the lighting of the rest of the interior of Cadaver Caverns, and those should mix together nicely inside the mine tunnel and provide all the illumination that I need for that endless tunnel reflection. In fact, I can go ahead and install this right now, but I'm not going to glue it into place. I want it to be removable in case I need to access the interior for any reason. So I've got a couple of drywall screws. Just going to screw those down nice and easy. And that should hold my ceiling in place. And I'll just put a slot here with my hot wire tool. Then I can run the wires. Then those will go down the back and down through a hole through the bottom of the layout when the little scene is installed. I'm going to save the reveal of how all this looks illuminated on the inside with the LEDs until the end of the video. Gives you a reason to stick around. So the effect is now basically done, but before I install it in the scene over there, I want to dress the set. I want to add a few details here and there that will enhance the scene a little bit. And one of the first things I want to add are some cobwebs to the front part of the tunnel here. I think that spiders are underrepresented on the Gruesome Gulch Layout. Of course, spiders are really hard to model in O scale. They'd be very, very tiny. But I want to have some cobwebs up here in the front, kind of hanging down, kind of Indiana Jones like, you know. And that'll have two effects. One, it'll add another layer of spookiness. And two, it will hide any scratches or spots or inevitable flaws that may have creeped in into the surface of the mirror during construction. So got some of this white polyester fluff, sometimes called angel hair, and I'm going to pull it apart into some, you know, wads and strands, and then use CA glue to install it as cobwebs. We'll see how that turns out. I'm going to find the right balance here because, you know, you don't want to obscure the effect too much. But you want it to look good. You want it to look good and scary. And this is a Grantline ore car for the 18-inch gauge track, and I'm just weathering it and resting it up here. I want it to look like it's been down here in the underworld for a long, long, long time. Using some burnt sienna and orange acrylic paint to add rust spots. We've got some serious corrosion issues here. Now I'll go over all of this with my colored chalks. Nice and rusty. I'll glue this in place right out here in the mine opening. I'll just put some rocks in here. Not sure exactly what they're mining down here, but I'm sure it's something creepy. Kryptonium. These sides really aren't going to be visible, or any of this, but I'm just going to go ahead and paint it gray just in case. It just all fades into the background. Now I'm working on what is essentially the lid. Big piece of foam here, going to stand up like that and block a lot of the views of the backstage area where I don't want people to see. And this is going to be connected to this piece, which will screw over the top part of that tunnel. Again, I'm not going to glue it down. I'm just going to screw it into place so I can remove it if I need to. Finishing up the rock carving on this using my wire brush to get some nice strata in there. I'll bring my heat gun over. Finish all that up. So I've got this and then a couple other little small pieces of rock work to paint. Then I can get everything installed over there in Cadaver Caverns. The little bits of rock are just to help hide the edges of the mine tunnel. Help to make it work from all the viewing angles. Well, I figure this is dry enough. I can probably put it into place. Finish the rest of the paint job. All right, looks like it's wearing a big hat. It's dark blue gray. This is apple barrel dark blue gray, which is a color I really like for Cadaver Caverns. I'll use some granite gray to add some highlights up here. Kind of mix that in. Gonna blend it right on the scenery with that dark blue gray I put on there, which is still a little wet. Alright, the paint's still a little tacky, but I'm going to go ahead and install it over in the scene. I want to see it. I want to see it done. Let's do it. I put a hole through the foam back in that back corner there, and that's what I'm going to run the wires down through. You can see I've roughly marked the outline in pencil. I've got a couple of wood blocks that help me to position it. These in the front up here actually sit underneath the minecart track that's coming out. I'm going to use the old bamboo skewer trick to thread the wires down through the hole. Makes things a little bit easier. And this really just fits in here like a puzzle piece. Kind of a tight fit. There it is, just like that. This one I want right about here. And then this one right here, I think. Make sure that doesn't interfere with the passing trains. And then this one right here. Okay, I think that's just about got it. Now I just need to get underneath and run the wires along here over to the 9-volt power bus for the lighting for the caverns. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this, but always label your wiring. Now, I can put Boot Hill back into place. Now this has to be positioned in exactly the right spot for 3 reasons. 1, so people can actually see the illusion. 2, so it's far enough over to the right so the trains can pass by, so there's enough clearance. And 3, so that this blue LED that's right here, you can see it on my hand maybe, doesn't reflect in the acrylic back there and spoil the whole trick. So it's got to be in just this exact spot. I am modifying this one little piece of rock work here though, just a little bit, because it was blocking too much of the view. Just need to touch it up with a little paint. All right, shall we see how it looks? Well, that's pretty cool. The endless mining tunnel of Cadaver Caverns. I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. You know, it's a subtle effect tucked back into the corner here, but I really like that. I don't like to always spell everything out for people. It's nice to have little hidden details, little hidden effects like this that people can discover on their own. By the way, if you just discovered this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more from Thunder Mesa Studio. And you can also follow us over on Instagram at thunder.mesa and see what's new on the Thunder Mesa Studio website at thundermesa.studio. And if you really enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and would like to show your support, you can do what these nice folks did and go over to patreon.com/thundermesa and show your support there. Until next time, keep moving forward, my friends. Adios for now.